my brother needed to get an emergency passport. All right, God, as long as you send me out with my brother, I'll go wherever you need me to go. God sent me a wave I could handle. I don't know that you're ever fully prepared to do that. All of the books were from donations that were sent in, but we had to work with what we had. God was just leading us a step at a time. God will use you and put you where he needs you.
What is up, you guys? Welcome to the podcast sponsored by the Student Missions Department at Southern Adventist University.
We have the purpose of sharing mission stories and inspire others to go and share Jesus with love. This is Edo Benitez.
I'm Emily Schneider.
And welcome to
Yours to Use. Today we're going to be interviewing a student missionary who served last year as a teacher on the island of Kosrae in Micronesia.
After he came back, he switched his major to elementary education.
And he told us that one of his favorite hobbies is bodyboarding, which is actually one of the reasons why he went to an island. So today on our podcast we have Noah Pierce. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
So we have a little surprise for you to start out. We have a trivia. So how it's going to work, you have 1 minute. We're going to ask you some questions about Kosrae, and we're going to see if you can answer them. If you know the answer, say it. If you don't, skip.
Okay.
And we're going to see how many you can.
The record so far is 13 questions, right?
About Kosrae?
Okay? No, about other
countries.
Yes,
but
okay.
yours will be specific to Kosrae.
Exactly. So let's see if you can break the record.
Okay, let's go.
I have faith in you. Okay,
So,
do you have a timer, Edvon?
Yeah, I have the timer.
Okay, are we ready to go?
So I will count at the count on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What are the colors of the flag?
White and blue.
What is the capital city?
Of Kosrae, Tavansak.
What is the name of the place where you served, like the school?
They all just called it SDA, but Kosrae Seventh-day Adventist School.
Okay. What is the official language?
Kosraean.
Can you say a word in the local language?
Kulumalap.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
The name of the governor of the country?
I met him, but I don't remember. Skip.
Oh no. What's a local dish?
I don't know the name of it, but it's a fish soup, and it's really good.
Okay. A popular animal?
The dogs?
15 seconds.
Population of the country?
Of the island, it's between 4,000 and 6,000, depending on local census.
Popular tourist spot?
The Nautilus, it's one of the hotels, and they can take you out to Captain Cook's.
Oh, good job. Well done. You
They
did
can
really
take
good.
you to his wreck.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Wow, that was very, very good, bro.
Yeah, I feel like he was giving us the detailed answers.
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting
He expanded.
a tour of the country. I
So-
think he deserves extra points for that.
extra point, bonus points. Yeah, bro. So we want to know, how did your missionary started? Like, how did you decide to become a missionary?
Well, so my dad and uncle, they went out as student missionaries together. They went to Majuro. And so that was me and my brother. We planned on going to Majuro together. We had always, growing up, wanted to go. And it was looking like we won it, and then it was looking like it was. And I was just kind of burned out at the end of one of the years. And he's up in Walla Walla, and so he was getting that you have no sunlight up there. And so he was like, all right, bro. He called me up one night and was like, we got to go to an island for a year.
The sun.
And so, yeah, we went and signed up, and it was really late when we signed up, but they're always needing people. And so we signed up to go out to Majuro.
So, why Majuro?
Well, that was because our dad and uncle had gone there together. Yeah. But I didn't end up going to Majuro.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we started going out there. My brother needed to get an emergency passport, so we went out to Oahu, and we have some family out there and stayed with them. And then the night before he was set to fly out, they called us and said, hey, you need to not just have your original, like, first and second dose of the COVID vaccine, but you also need your booster. And so I had only gotten my first and second dose, and so
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to go out to Majuro until around Christmas time because you have to wait
To get your booster.
to get your booster. So
Okay.
they gave us a list of different islands, and I had never heard of Kosrae at the time. I don't think Jonah had either. But I was good with basically any of the islands. I basically said, all right, God, as long as you send me out with my brother, I'll go wherever you need me to go. And my brother felt a really strong calling to go to Kosrae. And so I was like, all right, if that's where we're going, that's a good spot to go.
There you go.
How did you hear about Kosrae?
It was, so night before we were set to leave, they just called and said, hey, Majuro's not going to work. They gave us a list. Palau was one of them,
Okay.
Saipan, Kosrae, I think
Right.
Yap.
Yep.
And they said, pick one of these islands. And Jonah said, yeah, Kosrae just sounds right. And so we went there.
That's so
Okay.
interesting. So when you got to Kosrae, for those of us who haven't been to Kosrae, actually, fun fact, I have been to Kosrae.
Okay.
I was there for approximately 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
No, I
like
was.
in the airplane, like in the
Yeah,
airport?
I landed, and then the plane, we sat there for a second for people to get off, and then my plane, like, took off again. But I remember how the runway, it literally feels like you're about to land in the water.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
at the last second, you hit the ground and not the water. It's so insane. So give us a little description of what is Kosrae like.
Yeah, so the airport that you landed at, it's basically an entire man-made landing strip.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you when you're landing there is right on the end of that landing strip is where all the sharks go. So if you want to go diving with sharks, you go right there.
Interesting.
But the island is about 10 miles across. It's very sparsely populated in the middle. There's a smaller village called Welung, and then on like the northern side, and then in like a horseshoe shape around the coast is where most of the population is.
Okay. And is it like hot or
Y-
what's the...
It is,
Yeah.
the lowest I saw it get, I believe, was 78 one night. But for the most part, it was, it actually did feel cold. But for the most part, it was in the 90s the entire time,
Wow.
year round, day and night.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, what do you like the most about the culture? Like once you got there, like I'm sure like you were interacting with the people,
Yeah.
you got to explore a little bit more about different places, try different foods. Tell us more, like what was your favorite part of the culture, or what was your favorite thing?
So my favorite thing that happened was at the very end of the school year, we were able to take our 7th and 8th grade boys and with their parents' permission, we asked, they really wanted to go spearfishing, and that's a
Oh,
big
that's
part
so
of their
fun.
culture. And so we took our 7th and 8th grade boys, our 7th grade and actually 6th grade because our 8th grade was all girls.
Right.
We took them out spearfishing at night, and
Oh,
they first time swimming, swimming out at night.
Right.
And yeah, they got fish, and that was so much fun.
Oh my
I loved
goodness.
that.
Did you come back and like cook them? And
Yeah,
eat them
yeah,
all
we
together, or
had,
did everyone take them home?
No, they stayed over. We made pizza, cooked up fish, and watched Nacho Libre.
That
Yeah,
sounds
There
like
you
a
go.
good plan.
yeah, it
That's
was
so fun.
it was the night after graduation, so it's a great way to wrap up the experience out there.
That is really cool. I'm sure they loved that.
They did. Yeah.
That sounds so epic. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what was your job there? What were you doing every day?
So, my job kind of changed throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, I taught 7 through 12 math and science. So I taught 7th grade general math, 8th grade pre-algebra, 9th grade algebra 1, 10th grade geometry, 11th grade didn't have a math, 12th grade algebra 2, physics, physical science, and chemistry.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It was quite a bit. By the end, we partnered with Griggs through Andrews. And so I was more facilitating the senior and junior classes, helping them with their chemistry and algebra.
Right.
And yeah, so that took quite a bit of weight off our shoulders.
Yeah.
And so then I was teaching the 7 through 10 and then facilitating the Andrews.
So did you expect to be teaching all these classes when you decided to go to Kosrae?
No. So when they listed out those islands, Kosrae was presented to us as a K-8 school that had a principal and his wife
Right.
teaching there. And so my dad, he's taught multi-grade his entire career in the Adventist school system. And so we were like, okay, yeah, I know how this works.
Right.
I've seen a 2-person school. I'll teach, I think I was planning on teaching 5th and 6th grade. And Jonah would teach 3, 4. The wife would teach the younger. Principal would teach the older. It worked great. Then once we got there, they were like, all right, we have great news. This is the first year we're going K through 12. There was no principal, there was no wife. They had left right as we were signing up, they had left.
Wow.
And so it was just us. We had a family from Pakistan that had come over, and they stayed with us until into, I believe it was November.
Right.
And then they went over to, I believe it was Chuk. And then the pastor and his wife, they were stuck in the Philippines until around that same time because
goodness.
one of them had COVID.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was just us living at the school for the first few weeks, and then Shahzad and his family, the
Right.
Pakistani family, that came in. But yeah.
So in the end, you and your brother were like the only teachers for the high school.
Basically, yes.
Essentially.
We were the ones that were full-time teaching, living on campus. Yeah.
Hey, bro, and off cameras, you mentioned that you had another major before, right? That you recently switched to
Yeah. So
preschool,
Elementary.
Ed, yes.
education.
So I came to Southern as research bio. It's one of the only Adventist schools that does research as
true.
a full major.
That's true.
And so I really enjoyed that idea. Then I switched to secondary education biology. And then after I came back, I realized that I enjoyed working with the junior high age range. And so I decided, okay, I'll switch into elementary ed.
Okay, so because of your mission experience, you decided to change your major, right?
Yeah.
So how was it like to don't be a teacher, because you weren't studying to be a teacher, to now go into full like teaching a lot of classes? How was that like?
So I was secondary ed, so that's
Okay.
yeah.
But it's different.
It was very different, and my brother is a nursing major, and so
Okay, exactly. So
yeah, so it is very different. I'm very blessed that both of my parents are teachers,
Okay.
and so they were able to help walk me through quite a bit of
Right.
how to get things set up. Also, I'd grown up seeing how teachers work, and so just that step from seeing it though to doing it is a big step, and so
It's crazy.
I don't know, like from hearing from other teachers, I don't know that you're ever fully prepared to do that.
No.
So being able to get that jump in at like where I wasn't prepared at all, I'm sure it's going to make me much more confident going into my student teaching in the future.
Yeah. So this was your first year of teaching. Like you didn't have experience before.
Yeah.
What were the resources like that you had to work with? Like, was there curriculum? Did you have books? Like, what did you have to work with when you were starting to teach?
So we had books for a little over half of our classes. And then the internet was at dial-up speeds.
Oh.
So, and then we ran out of paper for the first few months.
That's so challenging.
So we, like printer paper, we
Right.
had like notebook paper, but
Right.
we couldn't print out anything. So we were using a projector, which that helped a lot.
I bet.
unless power went out. But
Right.
if we had power projector up on the board, that's how we did our tests.
Wow.
And yeah.
Everyone was writing their own test?
Well, like we would write the tests. We didn't have teacher's editions for most of our books.
Oh, okay.
I actually used Chegg for grading assignments.
Let's go.
But yeah, it was all of the books were from donations that were sent
Right.
in, and so we were grateful for what we had, but we
Yeah.
had to work with what we had.
Wow.
So I want to ask you, it seems that you had a hard time going into full teaching, right? But I want to ask you, in your whole experience, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, I went over a few. The no books, internet. It was at dial-up speeds while we had it, and then it cut out until around a little bit before Thanksgiving. No paper, and then just lack of teachers because
Yeah,
it-
definitely.
going over that many grades, we just couldn't do it fully. Like we did a decent job at it, but it's always going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Do you have any like stories like of things that happened that really impacted you or something that was really memorable, like how you saw like God working during the school year?
Yeah, it was. So part of what we did for fun was you introduced me with I like bodyboarding.
Right.
And so we went out on to go surfing on a day where it was way bigger than we should have. It was a code red swell that went through Fiji and came up and hit us.
Wasn't that after the tropical storm?
It was a separate time, but
Oh, a
yes,
separate time,
yeah.
okay.
And so there'd been a dry spell for surf, and we were like, all right, we got to go out. It looks large, but it's a half mile out, so maybe it's just the optical illusion or something.
Yes.
And we got out past the breakers. We were so lucky that nothing came in and hit us as we were going out. And as soon as we got out, me and my brother looked at each other and just said, we got to go in. We don't know how we're going to go in, but we have to go in. And so we said a little prayer, and we got a game plan. We watched a few sets roll through, and we let one set roll in, and then we were like, all right, go, sprint. And as I was going, just kicking as hard as I could, my brother surfs, I bodyboard. I was
Right.
kicking as hard as I could to go in, and I'm just praying, God, send me a wave that I can handle. And a big wave came, and it should have crashed and just sent me to the bottom,
Right.
but it didn't, and I made it safely past the whitewater. Got tumbled around a little bit, but it didn't pummel me into the bottom.
Wow.
And God sent me a wave I could handle. And it
Wow.
was way bigger than I thought I could, but I handled it.
Oh, praise God. I mean,
That is a cool story. Do you feel like, so that concept of like praying for God to give you something you can handle, and then it ends up being a little more than you thought even that you could handle. Did you ever have any stories like interactions with kids or like times when you were teaching during the school year where you felt like overwhelmed or you're like, this is more than I can handle, but you saw like God come through?
So during our Christmas play time, or between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we put on a Christmas play.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, and we pulled a script that my dad had used for one of his small schools, and we rewrote it a little bit, and it was great. But I'm musically illiterate. Like that's not something that's up my alley.
Right.
But the students, they were willing to work with us, and it wasn't something that I think they were used to doing either, but it turned out good.
Yeah.
praise God. And I have a question for you. Are there any Bible verses that help you to make it through the whole year? Because I'm pretty sure, like you just mentioned, there were some ups, downs, and I'm sure like there were a lot of moments that really impacted you in your life, and a lot of moments where God worked through you. was there like any Bible verses that help you to make it through the year?
Definitely. The verse that I kept referring back to is, "Your word is a light unto my feet and a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." Yes. And I don't know if you guys have like tried walking with just a lamp in the dark, but it shows you just enough to take another step. It doesn't show you the full path. You have an idea of where it's going, but it only shows you enough to take one more clear step. And so each step that we were taking was something that was bigger than what I'd be comfortable doing, but it was the next clear step. And so God was just leading us a step at a time.
That is really cool. So for maybe student missionaries in the future who are like really interested in going to Kosrae specifically, is there anything that you would recommend them to like take, or something that you brought with you that you were like really happy that you had?
Tea tree oil. Just being able to put that in like whatever bathing things, or it helped deter any bugs, and I don't know, that was something that was small, and it just made everything a little bit more manageable.
Okay.
But I want to ask you one last question.
Yes.
I am sure that there are people out there that are listening to this podcast, that are watching this video, and maybe they have the desire of going and serve as student missionaries.
They should.
Maybe God has been calling them through maybe Student Missions Vespers, through this podcast, or maybe they just have this idea in their mind of becoming missionaries. What would you tell to that person that is watching this video that has that desire, that idea of becoming and going and serve?
Well, God's only going to show you the next step. And for me, that next step was being burnt out in school and being, okay, I need to just go to an island as basically a getaway. But God used that and was able to, basically, if me and Jonah hadn't been able to go out there, I don't think the school could have continued, because they just didn't have the people. And so being able to be willing to just put yourself out there and accept that call, God will use you and put you where he needs you, because he needed us to be in Kosrae. We signed up to go to Majuro, but he guided us to where we needed to go. And so just be willing to take that next step, and if things change with where you're going, that's totally okay and totally normal. You're just letting God take you where you're needing to go.
I really like how what you said lines up with your, like, I guess we could say your theme verse.
Yeah.
Right. Like God being a lamp and showing you just like one step at a time, and you can really see that in your story. And for me, that's just encouraging, just like for my life today, even God guiding me, showing me one thing at a time. I don't have to know everything that's going to happen in the future, you know?
And at the end, that's trusting in God. That's having faith, because you don't see what is next, right? You don't see, but God knows. And all you got to do is to trust that God has the best plan for you.
Yeah.
Right? And he's going to guide.
It's a plan to prosper.
Yes.
Just
Amen.
let him guide you.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. So, as a, I guess, to say thank you, we have something special for you.
Oh, wow.
This kind of, we've constructed this, oh wow, I got a little crushed, sorry. Based on, maybe this will bring back some memories from your year in Kosrae, and as someone who is going to be teaching in the future, I think you will still be able to use it, a teacher starter pack.
Oh, thank you
you
guys.
can show it to our friends.
A whole bunch of giant paper clips.
I hooked them all together because my students used to hook all my paper clips together.
Mine too, yeah.
So I thought,
like a sash or a necklace, yeah.
Yep, I thought that was very fitting to hook them all
The
together.
grading pens.
The
we
red pens.
we needed these. We actually ran out of these and we couldn't find them. And that same week that we ran out, we got a care package that had a bunch of red grading pens in them.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, Noah, thank you so much for sharing about your stories. I hope you're able to use that as you teach more kids in the future. And thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you are blessed today, or if you think you know someone who would really enjoy this podcast, please make sure to share it with your friends or family or someone who would really enjoy listening.
And remember that God doesn't call the qualified, but He qualifies the called. See you in the next episode.